this year of our Lord of October 1st of 2025. Giving a quick update on a few things that are going on. Of course, the big news that everyone else is talking about is the big government shutdown. The big shutdown. That was, of course, the cartoon I posted there is of Chuck Schumer. That's the big thing trending now. And if you've been in political stuff, you know that this drama has been going on for decades. I do like this guy's idea. I'm going to play him for just a minute just to kick things off.
September 30, I'm a business guy, always pass budgets. And by the way, if you didn't do your job in business, you didn't get paid. You don't show up and do your job, you don't get paid. Why are we getting paid? We shouldn't get paid if we don't do our job. We need to figure out how to work together to get our budgets done. It's as simple as that.
So you're going to offer legislation to not get paid during shutdowns?
Absolutely. I already have a bill. We've got a bill that we don't get paid during the shutdown. Ron Johnson's got a bill that will never have shutdowns. That should pass also. But on top of that, what are the Democrats doing? This is a clean resolution. All we're doing is keeping the funding. Actually, the funding is too high. It's still the Biden funding. But I don't want to shut down government, so I support it. But the Democrats, they want to shut down for whatever reason. How is this good for the country? Nobody wins with a shutdown.
I hear you. And what about people at home that aren't as politically engaged as you and I are?
September 30, I'm a business guy. I always pass by.
So that's a little example of what's going on. Yeah, big government shutdown. Here's another one. There's Benny Johnson with the official vote here.
The nays are 45. The 60-vote threshold having not been achieved, the bill upon reconsideration is not passed.
So yeah, Chuck Schumer, who is the Democrat leader in the United States Senate, is the one primarily responsible for the shutdown. It's credit to Benny Johnson here. This other post was by Eric Daugherty. But you can go in here and you can see all kinds of comments about this. Folks, this drama has been going on for years. Sadly, this has been an opportunity for people to, in the past, Republicans would cave in to pressure from Democrats and go ahead and pass bills that funded all kinds of unconstitutional organizations like the ATF, like the IRS, and all these other organizations that they could have a chance to have shut down, which most Americans, by the way, want this shut down. Of course, there's a few things the federal government is supposed to do, like immigration customs enforcement and the military, stopping foreign invasion of the U.S., which is pretty much the only reason to have a federal government. And in that instance, these clowns in the left, and sadly some, Republican and name-only folks are those are the things they want shut down. Meanwhile, things that the federal government's not supposed to be involved in, like education, like I said before, the aforementioned the confiscation of guns, which they're not supposed to even have a department for. Many of these departments that aren't even supposed to exist, they want more money going towards. Folks, if you want to defeat a government shutdown, you need better people in Congress. You need people in Congress that care, that can stand up. They're not just the people with an R next to their name, but those who actually, will demand cuts from the get-go. This budget really should have been worked on months ago, and they do this almost every September. It has the same thing. There's this a lot of things get funded behind closed doors that we never know about, and then the important things that they're the ones that get put on the chopping block. I like this description, Palestinian senator, because he's supposed to be, he's ethnically a Jew, but let's be honest, he's not really one. If you're a leftist, you're not really a Jew. You're just some kind of amalgamation that, you hate America, you hate Israel, you hate everything built by God. You're not, I don't know what you are, but it's you cannot be a member of the Democrat Party, the party of drag queens, LGBTQ, indoctrination of kids, higher taxes, confiscation of guns. which, by the way, which under Germany was done to Jews before the Holocaust, coincidentally. You can't be for those things and call yourself a Jew. And I've talked about that before. Most people are at the same opinion. And of course, and the sad thing is Chuck Schumer probably knows this is bad for him, but he's beholden to these Charlie Kirk assassinating communists that run the Democrat Party. The same people that celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, the same people that thought George Floyd of fentanyl was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Those kind of people, they run the Democrat Party. They tell it what to do. And that party is gone. That party is, you need to leave that. If you have any self-respect, you need to leave that political party. That political party is evil. It is corrupted. It is demonic. It has just been taken over by people that hate everything regarding this nation. Now, folks in Arkansas have, for the most part, figured that out. A little bit, I'll talk about at least how most people in Arkansas have at least somewhat figured that out. We have a supermajority Arkansas legislature. The problem is we have consultants within the Republican Party that sabotage any real conservative efforts. So, well, before I talk about that, let me remind people, of course, you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter is right there, Kenny _NLR. This is my Gab account. It's another free speech place. I used to be on Parler. I don't know what happened to I think Parler was just dismantled, and I think it tried to come back. Here is my True Social account, Keep Arkansas Legal. And this is supposed to be an alternative to Facebook. It's called MeWe. It has some great groups here. And of course, here I am on Facebook. And there's me and the lovely Rebecca. You can see I'm live. But anyway, back to the government shutdown. So honestly, I would contact my members of Congress and tell them, hold fast, don't cave in. Make the Democrats pay for this. In the past, there were a lot of these Rhino consultant classes that would say that the government shutdowns would hurt Republicans. That is an absolute lie. And if there is some politician or consultant who claims to be a Republican that's telling you that, they're lying to you. We need more people like this guy, like Rick Scott. And I think there's some other legislators that have mentioned this guy right here. As a matter of fact, let me play this guy.
This government shutdown, whether it's going to happen, and what you see at stake here.
We're going to have a shutdown because Senator Schumer and the Democrats want one. It will be further evidence that human evolution is a slow process. There's no reason for the shutdown. What we've asked Senator Schumer and his colleagues to approve is what we've approved 15, 20 times, but they want to shut down because the loon wing of the Democratic Party is mad at Chuck, and Chuck wants them to love him, so we're going to have a shutdown.
Okay. All right. We will watch it unfold. Thank you very much, Senator Kennedy. Very quickly, Senator, just give us your recent take on this.
I just got a text that's up to be. Yeah, I love this. Yeah, we need more Senator Kennedys. We need more Rick Scotts. But if you want to put them in there, you're going to have to Ralph Norman. Now, I don't know what else these other guys have done, but as far as the shutdown, yeah, we need more people like them. In order to get more people like them, you have to fix your local government. You have to get involved and put conservatives and conservative policies on a local level. and that's mainly what I want to talk about is getting rid, because right now these budgets, by the way, they're being worked on a city and county level as well as a state level. The state of Arkansas has a fiscal session coming up, and I'll talk a little bit about that after a break that we have coming up. But your county is wasting thousands of dollars on an organization that is against your freedom. Well, many organizations, but here's one. This is 2020 Arkansas Code, Title 14. You can see that right there. I'm not going to quote the whole thing. Appropriations for the Association of Arkansas Counties. The quorum court of each county in this state may provide for participation of its county in the services and activities of the Association of Counties, a domestic corporation organized and existed under the provisions of the Arkansas Nonprofit Corporate Act. So this is one of these public-private partnerships. If the quorum court of a county authorizes a participation county in the association, then the quorum shall annually appropriate from the county general funds an amount that shall be equal to 1% of the general revenues received by that county from the county aid fund in the state treasury during the preceding fiscal year. Participation by each county in the association will be optional, with the quorum court of each respective county as provided in this section. And you can read the rest of this here. I'm going to post this link into the Rumble chat. If you don't have a Rumble account, I urge you to get one. And then so you can see kind of what it is I'm talking about. Also, you'll get updates on this. I'll put it in the live chat, and I'll put it in the comments section as well. And feel free to make a comment. But you want to log into Rumble. Rumble is a great alternative to YouTube. Of course, I am broadcasting on YouTube, but YouTube has actually been caught doing what's known as shadow banning. I think they just recently had a lawsuit regarding some of the stuff they've done. But this Association of Counties, this is an anti-American organization. This organization hurts your freedoms. It has sabotaged multiple conservative efforts. The ones that come to mind for me are the effort to try to get us away from not having to cooperate with ATF years ago. Scott County passed a resolution saying we're not going to have anything to do with ATF. Association of Counties stopped that, and then paper ballots. The effort to push for paper ballots, this organization has vehemently attacked it. Searcy County, actually, I'm wearing a shirt. I don't know if you could see it. It says paper ballots. This was supposed to be a statewide ballot initiative, and it was blocked by Attorney General Tim Griffin. So instead, the organization Arkansas Voter Integrity Initiative decided to go on counties, and that's when this organization started attacking counties. Searcy County has done elections without machines, and other counties are looking to do that. So, folks, we're going to go to a break. I'm going to play a video of a guy who should be fired, should be along the list of people who celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk. He didn't so much as celebrate, but what he said was really stupid. Both him and the person who put him on air need to be fired. But let me play this as we go to a little bit of a break.
History gives us a lesson that we saw this type of political violence in the 1960s, and we cycled out of it. I mean, not that there weren't other assassination attempts. Gerald Ford had an assassination attempt on him. Ronald Reagan had an assassination attempt on him. But we got out of that circumstance that we were in the 60s, where it was so expected because so many high-profile leaders, Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr., all of this, and John F. Kennedy, all this happened. What do you think could turn the tide in this conversation?
These things turn when we reach a critical point at which we realize it's not happening anymore, and we're not sure what caused it to stop. But looking back with longer term, it gives you some comfort that we're actually, these are in one sense only a few bad actors, and we were generally a free, competent, capable America. Otherwise, it's just that it was challenged or imperiled by actions of some, and somehow, I think maybe evil against good, goes in cycles. And I can't tell you specifically why 1973 was so much nicer than 1968.
Right.
It just was.
Yeah.
And we had a certain incendiary situation in the late 60s. And it's cyclical, but it cannot be cyclical unless we remain a competent, good country on the whole. At the moment, I hope that we are, but we may be going into talking about President Trump.
Yeah,
but at the same time, he is challenging our underlying constitutional principles in his authoritarian actions, which they are picking up. That I think that further complicates it. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that we also, for this incident or any others, it's just that, by the way, at the same time, we're going through challenges to our constitutional principles because this president believes, with a lot of public support, that this is a time that needs a strong man, an authoritative leader. And that's not the way we're founded. And so that compounds the problems that we face. Our courts have to stand up, our people have to stand up, and we've got to have elections that people believe, and in which, and we've got to have elections in which the Democrats give her better options and are a more competent party as the opposition party. And then we need a Supreme Court, if it comes down to it, to issue a big ruling. And let's hope all of that can happen.
Yeah. I want to turn our attention to.
So, folks, yeah, these two are both idiots, okay? They're lying to you. Number one, the political violence was done by Democrats. Yes, attempted assassination on Gerald Ford, on Reagan, Democrats. Guy that they claim shot John F. Kennedy, Democrat. Although, just like the Trump assassination, he was probably a patsy, and they had some probably CIA or other government-funded sniper behind that really did the shot. But this is Roby Brock of Capitol View and John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, and they're both diehard Democrats. And this was right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a Democrat, an LGBT-type act person. Neither of these, so if you are sick and tired of the people celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, you need to get these two fired as well. Roby Brock runs a thing called Talk Business, and then John Brummett runs a article in the Democrat Gazette. But anyway, good news is a lot of Arkansas folks have woken up and realized at least the Democrat Party is crazy, but we still got ways to go, as you can see. So anyway, back to what I was talking about before the break, the Arkansas Association of Counties. This is an article by Conduit News. It's a 9-minute read. It talks about several different organizations, but this is one of them. I wanted to focus on this group because, again, as I said, there's county budgets already put forth. I'm going to show you the Pulaski County budget is already available online to give you an idea of the scale of what you're doing. Actually, let me go to that first. Let me go to the Pulaski County budget. So this is the Pulaski County budget, annual budget adopted by reference, calendar year 2025. Now, they'll be working pretty soon on the other budgets. For like in November and then in December, you'll suddenly see a county budget being worked on. Now, if it's like Jefferson County, there'll be too many greedy, corrupt politicians trying to fund their little pet cash cows, and they won't have a budget. But here's the general fund this is for 2025, $116 million. And remember what that thing said. The appropriations is 1% of general revenue. Now, I don't know if this is actual revenue or not, but you can see kind of the scale of what it is. If this were to be like revenue available for appropriation, let's say this was the revenue, and I can't find the revenue. This is a 250-page document, by the way, so I just kind of give an example. But let's say, for example, this is 1%. So you just do math, which, just move your little decimal point 20 by 2. That should be a comma, by the way, not a period. I think it's a mistake. Because this is general fund appropriation. So let's say your decimal should be right there. You just move it 1, 2. So 1.6 million, I believe. Now, if somebody wants to come in and say, "Oh no, that's totally wrong. The actual revenue is a lot more than that," and of course, this is just one county. There's 75 counties, so you get kind of an idea of how much money that this corrupt organization extorts from we the people. So here, I'll read a little bit of this. The Arkansas Association of Counties, AAC, is a private nonprofit organization funded by taxpayers to advocate for the interests of local government actors such as county judges, assessors, clerks, and similar government offices. Not counties, not people within the counties, the government officials. Unfortunately, these taxpayers' funds are used directly against the interests of taxpayers by growing local government, opposing local government reforms to reduce taxes or protect private property rights, and increasing local government spending, including ever-increasing taxpayer-funded employee salaries and benefits. And by the way, another example, because I've seen a bunch of things like this, these stupid green pet projects, these windmills that are popping up in these solar panel farms, these windmill farms, some of these, this stupid deck park that was proposed by Frank Scott Jr. and has recently been retracted that I talked about earlier. This Association of Counties allows those to happen. And I know because I've seen this in Lincoln County, for instance, there was an effort to put up a windmill farm, and it's still being worked on. I think it's been delayed a little bit, but when people ask the Association of Counties about these green prep projects, they basically issue a letter saying, well, it's already a done deal. And while they will fight hard to shut down things like paper ballot initiatives, when it comes to these green projects, they're nowhere to be found. So the very thing that they're supposed to be used for, counties are supposed to spend money on these clowns to make sure that the county doesn't get sued. But when it comes to something like defending themselves from these usually out of state and oftentimes out of the country green projects, they're nowhere to be found. And this is some of their lobbyists. This is just an image of some of their lobbyists in the Arkansas legislature. They have lobbyists that you pay for. And of course, here's another part. The ASA is also busy by indoctrinating the next generation of government bureaucrats by providing scholarships to these government workers and their relatives. They provide information on getting automatic raises for government employees and conduct a salary survey to push an agenda for ever-increasing government salaries. So while you aren't getting a raise and your dollars are inflating and you're getting taxed, you're going to be hit with more taxes. By the way, side note, there's several little tax increase elections happening this November. Matter of fact, I've made a list of this, but I need to make another list. Lincoln County, Pocahontas School District, Cleveland County School District, Arkadelphia School District, and I want to say there's probably some more that I can't think of. There's 4 that I know of off the top of my head. I need to actually sit down and make a list of these. They're all trying to pass millage tax increases. That's a tax on your property and the property of every business in your area. And so when they lie to you saying, oh, it's just a couple pennies a day, or it's a couple dollars a month, or it's a few $100s a year, that is a lie. Because when you tax a business, that tax, they have to either pass that on to the customer, or they have to find some way to adjust or shut down and move out. And a lot of, mom and pop stores, you'll see them every once in a while. They'll post saying, "Sorry, we've been in business for 30 years, but we're closing down." That's why, because of groups like this. And meanwhile, you see these big chain companies like Walmart and Tyson Foods that sell us this toxic processed food that has all kinds of chemicals in it, when they should be, instead of eating healthy, you got to go and you basically have no choice but to buy food, or the lab grown meat and all that other garbage that's giving us cancer. You're being forced into that because of policies by these organizations. So I'm going to post onto the chat here a link to the Conduit News article. It's, like I said, it's a 9-minute read, so I don't want to go over all of it. But I posted a quote from there, and then that article that you can read up on. So if you want to, so of course, there's been efforts to defund the Arkansas Association of Counties, among many other things, for their many failures. And a part of that fight has been in the Arkansas legislature. Recently, we had the passing away of Senator Gary Stubblefield, and there was supposed to be of course, when a legislator passes away or resigns, and I actually have a story on resignation, they're supposed to have a special election. Well, unfortunately, the governor has decided to schedule the special election until after the fiscal session. So it's going to be several months that these people where Gary Stubblefield represented are going to be without a Arkansas senator. And there's going to be a lot of budget issues regarding the state that could be voted on, that could be decided by just a few votes. And I'm going to take another break, but I'm going to share this. This is also by Conduit News. They recorded the press conference by Senator Brian King. Now, this was Facebook Live. I don't see this on YouTube, and so the audio may not be the best. But I'm going to go ahead and post this press conference while I take another break. And I'm trying to format this like you would in a radio, to where you have 3-minute and 5-minute breaks. And again, this is Senator Brian King, who's been involved in the fight regarding, among many other things, the Franklin County Prison, which should have never been even attempted. Again, if we had an association of counties that actually cared about Arkansas taxpayers, they would have shut that down before it ever got started, before thousands of dollars were already wasted on studies and drilling for water that wasn't there. But again, Association of Counties failed us on that too. And they failed the people in Franklin County. And of course, they failed the Arkansas taxpayers as well. Anyway, when it goes to 10:30, I'll play this for a little bit so you can listen in on it. And again, this was at the old Supreme Courthouse at the Arkansas State Capitol. And I'd done a few days ago. And I'll post a link to this as well so you can listen to the rest of it.
For voter fraud, because they were destroying ballots. And what people really need to know, and one of the other proudest things I did was going to East Arkansas and rooting out fraud, absentee ballot fraud with multiple signatures on people that was designed to fraudulently try and change the representation of an election. And that's what voter fraud really is about. It's about changing the representation. Hudson Howland destroyed ballots so that the real person that should have been representing those people was not represented and basically misrepresented. And that's why we're here today. I can tell you that Senator Stubblefield and I, like I said, knew each other for several years. We were both cattle guys, farming guys. We talked about a lot of different things. And one of the things I want to say that by the governor, when her first announcement was to make sure that those people in that Senate district did not have representation for 14 months. Can you imagine if Joe Biden and one of our U.S. senators did not allow representation for the people of Arkansas for 14 months? What would be the outcome? But all of a sudden now, there's a much different situation going on. And both of those situations are wrong. Senator Stubblefield and I talked about several times. There may be a Democrat-Republican issue. There may be a liberal and conservative issue. There may be a moderate issue. There may be a lot of these things, but sometimes issues come down to right and wrong, and it's that simple while we're here today. If you look at this situation of even moving back this special election to June, you're basically allowing stolen representation. You're trying to steal representation from the people in that Senate district at one of the most crucial times of our state government and one of the most crucial issues. And I want to go through a few of the things where I'm going to tell you how this attempt to have the special election after the budget session will impact not just the prison issue, but it will also impact the budget session. We decide billions of dollars in this next budget session. So these people, by trying to manipulate the outcome and the representation of the people, will impact their decision. They will have no representation during the budget session. We have to introduce non-budget bills, which require a 2/3 vote threshold. Those votes can come down to one vote. So in the introduction of non-budget bills, those people will not have representation and will have it stolen from them. Senator Stubblefield served on joint budget. He had enough seniority. Their representation on the joint budget will be stolen if we do not have an election before that budget session. If you look at the vote on the Judiciary Committee, where quite possibly important things are decided on the Judiciary Committee involved in the prison. And once again, his district and mine, being close enough, could be the most impacted from the mega prison and impact them for decades. And all of a sudden, this governor believes that they should not have representation during one of this crucial time. If you look, it actually on legislative council, and legislative council right now can decide these prison contracts, the architect contracts. So Senator Stubblefield and those people's representation will not be happening. So if you look at another issue, if you just look at sheer Republican, Democrat, red to blue, that decision by putting off the election until after the budget session will delay Senator Stubblefield and those people's representation on legislative council. It's essentially flipping it from red to blue. You're essentially flipping. Senator Flowers will be Senator Stubblefield's representation on legislative council. Senator Flowers voted for the prison appropriation and tried to do the capital projects. So you have a total flip of votes there that is against the representation of the people and giving it to the other side. It's as clear as day. If you look at the representation, there's a lot of difference between Clarksville or Greenwood and Pine Bluff. Just in that sheer alone, to flip the representation of those people's district to another district that has almost no similarities to it is quite frankly wrong. This decision will impact billions of dollars. It will impact Arkansas's pocket. Every time down here, a lot of times one vote decides anything. We have Senator Stubblefield and I, are just one vote. But a lot of times that one vote can impact billions of dollars. It will impact decades of impact for Arkansas, just not even alone in the prison issue alone, even though that is enough. So that's what I'm saying. I know what voter fraud was. I fought voter fraud, even when it was unpopular to do so. Voter fraud, it really is about stealing representation, and this putting off the special election for his seat is about just stealing representation. So with that, I'm taking any questions.
Could you explain to me, I couldn't quite tell why you were saying that this district was going to be represented by, I think you said Senator Flowers, and that might just be because I don't understand how that works, but do you mind explaining that a little bit?
Yeah, in legislative council, which is the governing body outside the session, there's millions of dollars of contracts to be signed. You can see where $4 million of Learns was decided and gave to an outside company. You can see where a while back with Learns, it's fiscally irresponsible, in my opinion. $90 million was pulled out of one-time account to help, pay for ongoing expenses with Learns. So if you have these prison contracts that are coming up, HER right now is still in the limbo. Those prison contracts will be decided at legislative council. So you had Senator Stubblefield that was representing that district won't be impacted. Now his vote is given to Senator Flowers.
Are you saying that Senator Flowers will be at ALC now because he's not there?
Yeah, she's the all-person alternate. So now Senator Flowers will be basically voting on these issues, even though the most impacted district is Senator Stubblefield's district.
Have you had any conversations with the governor's office about this?
I reached out to the governor one time. I had my cell phone, but they do not want to talk to me. If you look at, No Joe Fury, who's paid almost $250,000 a year, refuses to answer questions, if that alone don't make every Arkansan shudder about what's going on with the government right now down here, it concerns me. But I'm open to talk to them anytime. They know that. But they're going to have to answer the tough questions they need to answer. And they just, like Joe Fury, they want to duck and run. But I'm open anytime they want to discuss it.
Have you thought about just making an appointment and going to the office of the governor?
I've reached out multiple times. They know that. I don't, like I said, I mean, it's one thing to be against Senator Stubblefield or myself, but it's one thing to be disrespectful to the people that we represent. And, one thing about Senator Stubblefield was the article in the Democrat Gazette a while back that Penny Weaver did about the extortion, the bribing of legislators with, your tax dollars for the district. I mean, he well documented exactly what's going on behind the scenes. And they know down here behind the scenes who they can push and shove around and who's going to stand up and do what's right. And so, I mean, that article said it all about what is really going on. And the idea down here that if you vote against them, we're going to get you an opponent, but if you vote with me, all of a sudden, I'm going to try and keep you from getting an opponent. So right now, legislators who file a fee are like, a lot of them, don't want an opponent. So they're willing to sink Arkansas into a financial boondoggle rather than them face the voters and for their decisions. I mean, like I said, go back and reference that article.
Tell me why you think the governor keeps pushing for the prison to be where obviously the citizens don't want it. Why do you think she's so determined to put it there and nowhere else?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the citizens and being an immediate issue. It's about looking at a holistic fund that she's not interested in. This prison, as it's actually all the people in the state of Arkansas. I've been contacted by people literally all over the state. And if you look at like Alabama, for example, when you get these financial disasters, look at Alabama, for example. Their legislature is going to go back and borrow money. They're talking about impacting every part of state government business. So why she continues to go down a path that is clearly, like I said, how do you even go out there to a place and buy a piece of property to try and find water for 3,800 people? And you don't get enough water to run a dwelling house, and what they got was sulfur water.
So, folks, back from break here for my half-hour break. That's Senator Brian King with his press conference regarding the prison. So just to bounce back to what I was talking about at the beginning, and this is a comment by James Michael Hood from a website called Tumblr, which I have not had the chance to check out yet. But this is from Tumblr, and it's a comment about Chuck Schumer's living in an imaginary world. I think it has some comments about his previous stuff regarding government shutdown. So let's just listen to this if we can.
The potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. They don't give a damn about the harm they will cause with their shutdown. That Donald Trump and the Republicans want a shutdown and Democrats do not. Republicans blocked it again, once again. So now 2 times, Republicans have failed to get enough votes to avoid a shutdown.
So yeah, Chucky's been around. Chucky's been in this
for a shutdown has.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't like is autoplays. So yeah, he's been involved in a lot of these shutdowns over the course of years. Anyway, there's Tumblr. I may look into that later. But again, thanks for James Michael Hood for posting that. But again, if you want to get rid of Chuck Schumer, you got to start at a local level. You got to go after these organizations like the Arkansas Association of Counties. Here's, of course, another group I've talked about. It's the Chamber of Commerce. This article talks about them, and they're pretty much the same thing. They're one of these quasi public-private partnerships who try to call themselves good guys. In this case, the Chamber of Commerce claims that they're supposed to be for small business. And actually, they actually pushed for gas tax increases, the internet sales tax, and they pushed for Obamacare Medicaid expansion, the biggest expansion of government in history. There's Randy Zook of the Chamber of Commerce. They also pushed for the COVID vaccine. They pushed for folks to be terminated. They didn't take the jab. And you hear about this on a national level, but again, you got to deal with this on a local level. You got to keep up with what's going on locally. So here's another thing that's going on. This is Representative Carlton Wing has resigned from the House of Representatives to take on his new position leading Arkansas PBS. Now, he's a Republican, and he's going to resign from there to get a salary at PBS for $206,000 a year. Why are we paying $206,000 a year to Arkansas PBS? I did like a lot of things that PBS used to have a long time ago. They had Mr. Bean. They had a show called Allo Allo, Are You Being Served? I don't know if I don't know if they had Doctor Who or not. They seem to have a lot of television from England for some reason. I think they had like Masterpiece Theater. I think they had some old murder mysteries on there a long time ago. Of course, they had Sesame Street, which even back then was kind of questionable. But nowadays, most of it's just LGBTQ stuff. The PBS NewsHour is with Jim Lauer, is nothing but leftist propaganda. Rush Limbaugh used to criticize that group, and with good reason. But just to put everything in the perspective here, our state is not the richest state, and we have had some issues regarding where our tax money can go. And the sad thing is use all of our, the biggest problem we have had always has been spending, not needing more tax money. And this is why I'm opposed to all these tax increases, these millage tax increases that are going on across the state. And I'm going to talk more about that in another broadcast. But again, you have to clean up your local government. You have to clean up your local Republican Party before you can take on things like a government shutdown. Like I said, it's going to be the same song and dance. They'll have a big bunch of drama. They'll have a whole bunch of concessions. There'll be a bunch of grandstanding, but we'll still be funding a lot of organizations that we have the chance to shut down. And by the way, you need to call the Democrat Gazette and tell them to fire John Brummett, because he doesn't need to be there after his cowardly comments regarding Charlie Kirk and blaming that on supposedly Republican Party, Donald Trump's alleged attacks on the Constitution, which he never gave any example of. So here's another section of that press conference area. This is actually Amber Sullivan, Senator Subtlefield's daughter, and Conduit just posted this, so I'm going to go ahead and expand it and play a little bit of this, because I didn't play the section where she speaks. I didn't play the whole press conference. It's like 20 minutes. And I'll play this.
I'm not a public speaker. I don't even feel like I should have to be here today. My family is grieving. We are daily dealing with this, having to see it in the news. This shouldn't even be an issue. My father represented his people. He loved his state. He loved his country. And he loved Franklin County. I'm going to try not to break down, but I would not be here if it were not for standing up for what he believed in. And all we're asking is for our voice to be heard and do what is right. We're not asking anybody to break the law, but his seat should not go unrepresented for 8 months, 9 months. It shouldn't go 5 months unrepresented. He had a huge voice. He was very respected. He earned that. And now it's being pulled away for whatever reason that we are not given an answer to. I have reached out. I have gotten nothing. And all we are asking is that people around this state to contact this governor about what is going on. This election should be taking place in January. It could have taken place in November, actually, based on the days of when my father passed. But for some reason, they continue to put it off. And all we are asking is for accountability for those people that he was passionate about. He was not even healthy. He stood strong in everything in his being, stood for them. And they represent everybody in this state. It's not just Franklin County we're talking about. We're talking about everybody. This is about his seat. This is about every issue out that our district, health insurance, education, everything. And we deserve a voice. And I think he deserves the respect. And that's all that we ask, is for this election not to be continued to be pushed back.
So yeah, you can see the rest of that on Conduit News' website. Actually, this is on their Facebook page. Let me post that as well to the live chat. And once again, one of the things she said here that has been a problem is there seems to be a disconnect between Governor Sanders and the rest of and Republicans in general on a whole host of issues. And part of the problem, I'm going to post this here, is the consultant class that have infested the Republican Party. These clowns right here. This is, of course, the big one here is Chris Caldwell, JDC Consulting with Chase Duggar, Impact Management with Richard Bearden. These consultants and others like them run the Republican Party, and they do so at the behest of their clients. Meta, which for those who don't know is Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook group. I don't think I have to go into detail of how we all know that he's a leftist. If you remember the Zuckerberg bucks, they actually were involved in the stealing of elections on a local level. Entergy, Summit Utilities, both of these companies have been increasing their rates. They've been piddling around with green projects instead of actually making real reforms to lower the cost of utilities. This is the Association of Judges. So if you wonder why the Republican Party makes no effort to defund judges, there you go. There's Exhibit A for that reason, for that issue. And, of course, other organizations. Arkansas Trucking, I'm wondering if Arkansas Trucking is opposed to these illegal aliens getting driver's licenses, because we know that that's been going on and it's gotten people killed. The famous story of the Indian guy who killed 3 people in Florida, he had collapsed a bridge in Arkansas beforehand. And it was several years ago that was done. I don't know whatever happened to that lawsuit. There was a bridge, I think, in Ola, Arkansas. I talked about it in a previous video. Of course, these two are health organizations, the Arkansas Health Association. I forgot their actual acronym. And then Empower. This is another health organization. So if you wonder why the Republican Party under Asa Hutchinson pushed for things like the COVID vax, it's because these cowardly consultants forced the Republican Party of Arkansas to adhere to globalist organizations like this instead of fighting for freedom. And it's been a problem for years. And until these people are kicked out, you're going to have more behavior like what's going on with Gary Stubblefield with the prison. We're still going to be funding organizations like AETN, Arkansas PBS, when we don't need to. And more of this stuff is going to be going on, all while Republicans are getting ready to file. Filing, by the way, is November 3rd. That's for the partisan races, so people that want to run for state legislator. For most other races to be done in the primaries elections, you have to file from November 3rd to November 10th. You have to pay your filing fees. Most counties, Republican counties, have wised up and realized that they don't need to increase the fees. Of course, the state party a while ago greatly increased the fees at the behest and the orders from these people to make it much more expensive for people to come in to run as a Republican, because they only think that the only way to screen out Republican candidates is whoever has the most money, and that is an absolute lie. What we really need to screen Republican candidates is with debates, real debates, open Q&A sessions where people can ask, what have you done to reduce the size and scope of government? Who is actually running your campaign? What did you do during the COVID crisis? What did you, some, tax increases, local tax increases, did you ever campaign against them? That sort of thing. Ask them real questions, not the stupid fake debates that they have by PBS, where it's just the powers that be get to decide which questions to ask, and you have 2 minutes and all that. No, that's stupid. We need real debates. Lincoln Douglas debates that also include Q&A sessions from the public, or at least the Republican Party members. In a just world, Republican candidates would be required to have at least one Lincoln Douglas debate that had also included Q&A from members of the Republican Party. But you got to kick these guys out of office in order to make it happen. And we, the people, can make it happen. Our voices heard. These organizations that are having to fire leftists who are making fun of Charlie Kirk, they didn't want to do that. Okay, most of those organizations that these people fired for over Charlie Kirk. I think there's an actual website dedicated to them. I'll just put it here today. See, like this university professor here. I'm not going to play the video. But yeah, these people have fired. Yeah, your voice matters. Pilots, teachers, healthcare workers. Matthew Dowd. Because if it wasn't for your voice, because MSNBC, their whole organization is anti-conservative. They hate you. They want you dead. But because of political pressure, you're able to at least force some reform and wake up a few more people to realize what's really going on in the world. So, as I've always said before, find a way to get involved regarding this issue. Look up your county budget. Ask about it. Ask people that are going to file for running for justice of the peace and county judge. Will they get us out? Will they get your county out of the Association of Counties? Will they take that 1% that goes in the general revenue and put it toward something useful? Put it toward fixing the roads, fixing the sewage system, fixing the electric grid, getting update equipment. Steve Finnegan talked about yesterday. Little Rock hasn't bought a new police car in I think 2 years. That the firefighters are living in third world conditions. That's because people don't pay attention to their city and county government because their government's paying money to stupid organizations like the Association of Counties, the Municipal League, other groups that are actually opposed to freedom. So that's one way to get involved and start the process so that by the time we have another government shutdown, we will have elected, members of Congress and members of the U.S. Senate who actually care about this stuff and want to actually stop it. So folks, just like a radio show usually ends a few minutes before the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and end this. Remember, when the wicked rule, the people groan. That is from the Bible. Be sure to read your Bible, develop a relationship with God, pray with others. Most of what I've been talking about is how to fix things politically, but there's a lot of things that need to be done on a spiritual level as well, and a fiscal level. Grow a garden, get out of debt, do those other things so that you're less dependent on government. Other than that, you all have a good day.